So I've checked out many refurbished systems here on the channel, and some were downright terrible, dust, dirt, some weird modifications inside just to get it running long enough to pass the initial test to sell. Others, actually really good. I'm thinking of Nintendo, for example, where they had refurbishment systems out of their store that were just about like new. Well, today I thought I would check out Sony's latest offering, as they do have refurbished PlayStation 5 systems. And since we've been seeing pricing around a lot of consoles, I mean, they're just constantly seemingly going up or not at all going down in price anymore, I figured this would be a good thing to check out, especially heading into the holidays, because from Sony, this would be the cheapest possible way to get a console for the PlayStation 5 generation. So we'll look at that here today. So if you guys enjoy this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Back in the day, we used to see game consoles become cheaper as the generation went on. Oh, and by back in the day, I mean last generation with the PlayStation 4. See, even with the PS4, we had the Pro announced alongside of a cheaper slim model for the base console. It even had some upgrades with better Wi-Fi and a more efficient chipset. This came in at a $300 price, while the PS4 Pro took over at the already established $400 price tag. Now, however, we have the PS5 actually moving up in price for the digital model, now at $450, and the PS5 Pro jumping well above the standard $500 price to $700. Fortunately, though, we did have Sony quietly introduce a cheaper alternative to either of these with factory refurbished consoles. These currently come in at $350 for the digital model and $400 if you want a disc drive included. I went ahead and picked up a console with the disc drive to see if it's a good alternative for someone looking to get in at the cheapest price possible from Sony. And I think that's an important distinction to make here. Sure, you can maybe find a cheaper PS5 in the secondhand market. However, this one comes with a 1-year warranty from Sony, so there is a bit of added value there. Also, I noticed it comes packaged pretty well. You can see the box is still a white theme with the PlayStation symbols in gray, but here we have a black outline of the PS5 console and DualSense, along with a big blue refurbished banner at the top. Oh, and no 8K badge at the top for this one. Sony got rid of that after a year or so, and would probably make more sense on the PS5 Pro box at this point. Anyway, the back goes over a bunch of features for the system with the SSD, 3D audio, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, and backwards compatibility all getting a shout out. The side shows everything inside, so if you just want a list of the included parts, feel free to pause it here. With the seal on the top cut, we do have a white box. The bottom has a window that shows us the model number for the system, CFI 1215A. This is the quiet revision that Sony made a couple of years ago, where they shrank the fabrication to 6 nanometers and in turn remove some of the copper from the heatsink. Technically, the system draws less power than the launch model, so the smaller heatsink really doesn't change anything when it comes to the console's ability to cool itself. With the big white box open, I get 2 smaller white boxes and a manual. This is actually a good thing to keep around since it does go over installing your M.2 drive along with just maintenance in general. The larger white box has our PS5 console inside, which is held up by 2 cardboard ends. It actually keeps the system packed well and basically suspended in the air to avoid any impact if the box were thrown around in shipping. With the console fully unpacked, I have to say, it looks pretty clean. Sony says there are cosmetic imperfections that vary on a system-by-system basis, but the most I can find here are these micro scratches on the glossy black plastic. The bottom also has a factory recertified sticker. The smaller box has all of the other pieces, which actually includes an original stand. It sounds funny, I'm sure, to be excited about a stand, but keep in mind with the newer PS5 console, you don't get a vertical stand anymore. Technically, it only adds to the value of the refurbished system since you don't need a $30 vertical stand to complete the look. Actually, let me know in the comments if you stand your PS5 up without a stand, because I've moved mine around to capture footage and just kind of stood it up there for hours on end. Never really had an issue with it at all, actually. The DualSense included here also looks to be in excellent condition. The most I could find was maybe a bit of dust trapped in the rubber tops of the analog sticks. Otherwise, it's clean with all the buttons pressing perfectly fine. There's even a charge to the controller, so let's hook up the system and try it out. After going through the setup process, I popped in a game to make sure it could read and install it, which the system had no issues at all. I tested the Wi-Fi here to update the system, and after 10 minutes or so, I was loading up Uncharted 4 without a hitch. I've seen refurbished consoles play fine in the past, though, and it wasn't until taking it apart that you start to notice some serious issues like heavy amounts of dust, dirt, and missing screws, just to name a few. It's stuff that could make the unit break down faster over time and isn't obvious on the outside, so let's see what we're dealing with here in a system from Sony. Fortunately, by just removing the plates on either side of the PS5, we can get a quick look inside of it, and that looks pretty clean. I wanted to go a bit further here, and this eventually turned into me tearing the system down to the chip with the liquid metal. The reason for this is because I was actually surprised with how clean the system looked inside. Usually, there would be at least some kind of dust in a refurbished system, but not really any here. All screws were in the right place with none missing, and even the small stickers used for warranty or holding wires in place look like they had never been tampered with. Usually, even if you're careful, there will at least be some sort of sign they were peeled up and then reapplied, but in this case, they all still look like new condition. I couldn't even spot dust in between the heatsink fins or in the fan blades, which are spots that it's hard to clean 100%. It got to the point where I started realizing this system may have just been a small fix, like the disk drive, since it looks like it had some serious scratching around the edges and maybe had some work done with a laser replacement or even just a realignment. Things would get jammed into disk drives all the time. I mean, you can go through a list of things: coins, popsicle sticks, playing cards, multiple game discs. Yeah, if one didn't go in, they push it harder to pop it in, and eventually you just have 3 Blu-ray discs in one drive. Fortunately, the realignment was actually not bad at all. Once you get the stuff out of there, it was set up to reset perfectly fine. But yeah, you think about what could fit in that slot on maybe your PS5 or your Xbox or any of the previous systems. We probably removed it at some point from a customer's console. This leads me to my final point with a refurbished system like this. It's hard to say what you'll get since it largely depends on what was originally fixed to get into working, sellable condition. Some PlayStation 5 consoles may just need a fan replacement or a laser replacement and has no issues with the main chip. Other systems could have had the main APU replaced and could be a bit more dicey down the road, so keep in mind it's going to be somewhat a luck of the draw. That said, everything here, from the packaging to the controller and cables to the condition of the system inside, Sony did an excellent job with the refurbished console that I ordered. And it seems to be a good pickup if you're looking to get one cheaper with the warranty attached. Also, keep in mind, it looks like the digital model is not the system that can have the disk drive attached later, so I would recommend getting the disk drive-based system at $400, just in case you want to borrow a game, buy used titles, or even watch a Blu-ray movie at some point. But let me know your thoughts on this refurbished PlayStation 5 system, especially if you picked one up very recently. Let me know what your experience was here in the comments. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.